She signed the divorce papers. Then met the man who changed everything. The pen felt heavier than it should have. Emma Parker stared at the final page of the divorce agreement, her name printed neatly at the bottom. Emma Louise Parker. Beside it was the signature of the man who had been her husband for 11 years. Daniel. She had imagined this moment many times. In some versions, she screamed. In others, Daniel changed his mind at the last second and reached across the table, telling her that they could fix everything. In one particularly foolish version, he cried. He didn't. He simply sat across from her in the small lawyer's office, looking at the papers as though they were paperwork for a house he had decided not to buy. "Are you sure?" the lawyer asked gently. Emma looked up. "About what?" "About signing." She almost laughed. Sure? No, she wasn't sure about anything. She was only sure that she was tired. Tired of explanations. Tired of apologies that lasted 3 days. Tired of wondering where Daniel was, who he was talking to, and whether the man she had married still existed somewhere beneath the person he had become. She looked at the signature line. Then she signed. The scratching sound of the pen against paper seemed strangely loud. That was it. 11 years. One signature. Finished. Daniel stood. "Emma?" She didn't look at him. "Please don't." "I just wanted to say, I know." He stopped. She finally looked at him. For the first time in months, she noticed how tired he looked. There had been a time when seeing Daniel tired would have made her want to take care of him. Now it only made her sad. Not because she wanted him back. Because she remembered when she did. Daniel swallowed. "I never wanted to hurt you." Emma nodded. "I know." And somehow, those 3 words hurt more than anger would have, because she did know. Daniel hadn't woken up one morning and decided to destroy their marriage. It had happened slowly. A missed dinner, a forgotten birthday, a password he suddenly changed, a phone he began keeping face down, a distance that grew between them until they were sharing a home but living completely separate lives. Then came the truth. There was someone else. Daniel had denied it, then admitted part of it, then admitted more. By the time the full truth came out, Emma realized she had been fighting for a marriage that Daniel had already abandoned. She picked up her handbag. "I'll see you around," she said. Daniel stared at her. "That's it?" Emma paused at the door. She wanted to tell him that she hated him. She wanted to tell him she loved him. She wanted to ask why she hadn't been enough. Instead, she said, "I don't know what else there is to say." Then she walked out. Outside, the afternoon sun was brighter than she expected. People hurried along the pavement. Cars passed. A woman laughed into her phone. Somewhere, a child was crying because his mother wouldn't buy him something from a shop. The world hadn't stopped. That surprised Emma. She had secretly expected it to. She stood on the pavement holding the divorce papers inside her handbag. She was officially divorced. And for the first time in 11 years, she was completely alone. 3 days later, Emma moved into a small apartment across town. It wasn't beautiful. The kitchen was tiny. The bedroom window looked directly at the wall of another building. The sofa she'd bought secondhand had a suspicious stain she couldn't explain. But it was hers. No memories belonged to Daniel there. No wedding photographs, no arguments, no silence, no questions about why he was late. For the first week, Emma loved it. For the second week, she hated it. By the third week, she wasn't sure what she felt. She discovered that loneliness wasn't always crying. Sometimes loneliness was cooking too much pasta because you'd spent 11 years cooking for 2. Sometimes it was reaching for your phone because you wanted to tell someone something funny, then remembering there was nobody to tell. Sometimes it was hearing a couple arguing in the apartment upstairs and feeling strangely jealous. At least they were still arguing. At least they still cared enough to fight. Emma began keeping herself busy. She worked late. She cleaned unnecessarily. She rearranged furniture. She joined a weekend book club and attended exactly twice. On Friday evenings, she walked to a little cafe near her apartment. She always ordered tea. She always sat at the same table. And she always pretended she wasn't watching other people live their lives. Until one rainy Friday evening, a man sat at the table beside hers. He was carrying a stack of papers, an umbrella that had clearly lost a battle with the weather, and an expression of someone who had just discovered that adulthood was mostly inconvenience. He placed his coffee on the table. The cup immediately tipped over. Coffee spilled across his papers. He stared at them. Then he closed his eyes. Emma tried not to laugh. She failed. He looked at her. "You're enjoying this?" "A little." "That's fair." He picked up the papers. "I'm Daniel." Emma froze. The man noticed. "Sorry," he said quickly. "Bad introduction?" She smiled despite herself. "Very." He laughed. "I'm Michael." Emma nodded. "Emma?" Michael looked at her for a second. "Nice to meet you, Emma." She looked back at her tea. She didn't know it yet, but that conversation was going to change her life. Not because Michael swept her off her feet, not because they fell instantly in love, but because for the first time in years, a man sat across from Emma and simply talked to her. He didn't ask what her husband had done. He didn't ask why she was single. He didn't try to impress her. He didn't even know that her heart was still learning how to beat without Daniel. And perhaps that was exactly what she needed. Michael became a familiar face, not immediately a friend, just familiar. He worked nearby. He came to the cafe several evenings a week. Sometimes they talked, sometimes they didn't. One evening he asked, "Do you always drink tea?" "Yes." "Never coffee?" "No." "Why?" Emma shrugged. "Coffee makes me nervous." Michael nodded seriously. "Good to know." "What?" "I'll never give you coffee." She smiled. "Thank you." Their friendship developed quietly. There were no dramatic declarations, no candlelit dinners, no sudden realization that they were meant for each other. Just conversations. Michael told her about his mother, who called him every Sunday to remind him that he was wasting his potential. Emma told him about her terrible attempts at gardening. He laughed when she admitted she had killed a cactus. "A cactus?" It was complicated. "It's a cactus, Emma." "I forgot to water it." "That's usually the problem." She laughed, and she realized something. She hadn't laughed like that in a long time. One evening, Michael asked, "Why did you move here?" Emma went quiet. "Divorce." He didn't react dramatically. He simply nodded. "I'm sorry." "Don't be." "Was it bad?" She looked at him. "Yes." He didn't ask for details. That mattered. Instead, he said, "Then I'm glad you left." Emma stared at him. "You don't even know what happened." "No." "Then how can you say that?" Michael shrugged. "Because whatever happened, you look like someone who's finally getting a chance to breathe." Emma looked down at her tea. For some reason, those words stayed with her. Over the next few weeks, Michael became part of Emma's routine. But Emma was careful. She had learned that affection could become dangerous when given to the wrong person. Michael never pushed. When she didn't want to talk, he let her be quiet. When she canceled plans, he didn't demand explanations. When she told him she wasn't ready for another relationship, he simply said, "Then don't have one?" That answer surprised her. Most people told her she needed to move on. Michael didn't. He seemed to understand that healing wasn't a race. One Saturday, he invited her to a farmer's market. "Just friends," he said. Emma smiled. "Just friends." They spent 2 hours arguing about apples. Michael insisted one variety was superior. Emma insisted they all tasted the same. He bought 6. She laughed at him. Later, while they were walking home, Michael suddenly stopped. "What?" He pointed across the street. "That bookstore." Emma looked. "What about it?" "It's closing." She nodded. "That's sad. Let's go in." "Why?" "Because we're going to save it." Emma laughed. "We?" "Yes." "You can't save a bookstore." "Not with that attitude." She followed him inside. They spent an hour browsing books. Emma realized something afterward. She had forgotten Daniel entirely. Not permanently, not completely. But for 1 hour he hadn't occupied her mind, and that felt like freedom. One evening, Emma asked Michael a question. "Have you ever been married?" He hesitated. "Yes." She looked at him. "What happened?" "We divorced." Emma smiled sadly. "Then you understand?" "More than I'd like." They sat quietly. Michael eventually said, "I cheated." Emma looked up. He continued before she could respond. "I was younger, stupid, selfish. I hurt someone who trusted me." Emma didn't know what to say. "Do you regret it?" "Every day." "Did she forgive you?" "I don't know." "Why didn't you ask?" "Because forgiveness isn't something you demand." Emma looked at him differently. This wasn't the perfect man. He had made mistakes, serious ones, but he wasn't hiding them, and that mattered. Michael looked at her. "I don't want you to think I'm telling you this because I expect something from you." "I don't? I just think if we're going to be friends, you should know who you're talking to." Emma smiled faintly. "Thank you." That night, she couldn't stop thinking about him. Not because she was falling in love. At least that's what she told herself. Months passed. Emma changed. She began taking weekend trips. She joined a fitness class. She painted her apartment. She even bought another cactus. This one survived. Michael celebrated the achievement as though she had won an international award. But their friendship began changing too. They noticed it. Neither spoke about it. Then one evening, while sitting outside the cafe, Michael said, "I'm scared." Emma looked at him. "Of what?" "You." She laughed. "Why?" "Because I care about you." Her smile disappeared. Michael continued. "And I don't want to become another person who takes something from you." Emma looked down. "I don't know if I can love anyone again." "I know." "What if I can't?" "Then I won't ask you to." She looked at him. "Why are you so patient?" Michael smiled. "Because I learned what happens when you're not." For the first time, Emma reached across the table. She placed her hand over his. Neither of them moved. Then Daniel called. Emma hadn't heard his voice in months. "Hello?" "Emma." She immediately knew. "What do you want?" "I need to talk to you." "About?" "Us." "There is no us." "I know." His voice sounded different, tired, almost regretful. He told her he had made mistakes. He told her his relationship with the other woman had ended. He told her he missed her. Emma listened. Then she said, "You don't miss me, Daniel." Silence. "You miss who I was when I loved you without asking questions." He didn't answer. She ended the call, but Michael had seen her face. "Daniel?" Emma nodded. Michael didn't ask what was said. Instead, he asked, "Are you okay?" She looked at him. "I think I am." And that was the moment she realized something important. She wasn't waiting for Daniel anymore. Emma finally told Michael the truth. She was afraid, not of him, of herself. "What if I make the same mistake again?" Michael answered quietly, "Then we'll deal with it." "We. If you want there to be a we." Emma smiled. You make everything sound simple. No. He looked at her. I just think love is supposed to give you room to be human. Emma felt tears forming. Daniel had made her feel like love was something she had to earn. Michael made her feel like she could simply exist. And somehow, that was more frightening. Because this time, she had something worth losing. Their first real argument happened over something small. Michael canceled dinner. Emma immediately assumed the worst. She became distant. Michael noticed. What's wrong? Nothing. Emma? I said nothing. He sighed. You don't trust me. She froze. I do. No? She looked away. You don't. The words hurt because they were true. Michael left that evening. Emma sat alone in her apartment. She realized she had been punishing him for things Daniel had done. The next morning, she went to his apartment. I owe you an apology. Michael opened the door. I know. She laughed nervously. You're supposed to make this easier. I could lie. She smiled. Then she said, I'm scared. Michael nodded. I know. I don't want my past to ruin something good. Then don't let it. She took his hand, and this time, neither of them let go. But love didn't magically fix everything. Emma still had bad days. Michael still carried guilt from his past. They had disagreements. They misunderstood each other. They occasionally said the wrong things. For a while, Emma wondered if perhaps this was proof that love wasn't meant for her. Then she realized something. A healthy relationship wasn't one without problems. It was one where both people were willing to face them. So they learned. Together, slowly. One afternoon, Daniel appeared unexpectedly. He told Emma that he had finally understood what he had lost. He apologized. This time, Emma believed him. But forgiveness didn't mean returning. I forgive you, she said. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. Does that mean there's no chance? Emma shook her head. It means I'm no longer angry. He nodded. Are you happy? Emma thought about Michael. Yes. Daniel smiled sadly. Then I'm glad. And for the first time, their story ended without anger. Emma realized that Michael hadn't saved her. She had saved herself. Michael had simply been there while she learned how. She had rebuilt her confidence, her friendships, her independence, her ability to trust her own decisions. And that made their relationship different. She wasn't with Michael because she needed someone. She was with him because she wanted him. A year after their first meeting, Michael took Emma back to the same cafe, the same table, table 7. He placed a cup of tea in front of her. No coffee. Never. She laughed. Then he reached into his pocket. Emma's heart stopped. Michael, don't panic. He pulled out a small key. She stared at it. What is that? The key to my apartment. She blinked. That's your big romantic gesture? He laughed. I thought we'd start with something practical. Emma laughed until tears came to her eyes. Then she took the key. Okay. Okay? Okay. And somehow, after everything she had been through, the simple word felt more romantic than any grand promise. 2 years later, Emma walked past the lawyer's office, where she had signed her divorce papers. She stopped. For a moment, she remembered the woman she had been that day. Broken, afraid, certain that her best years were behind her. Then Michael took her hand. Ready? Emma smiled. Yes. They walked on. She never forgot Daniel. She never forgot the pain, but she no longer needed to, because healing didn't mean pretending the past hadn't happened. It meant refusing to let the past decide what happened next. Emma had once believed the divorce papers were the final page of her love story. She had been wrong. They were simply the page where one story ended and another began. Not a perfect love story. A human one. A story filled with mistakes, patience, laughter, fear, forgiveness, and choice. And perhaps that was what changed everything. Not that Michael arrived and rescued her, but that after losing someone she thought she couldn't live without. Emma finally learned that she could choose a life she loved. And then, when she was ready, she chose someone to share it with. The end.